Okay, thank you and welcome, and thanks to everyone at Awakening Together for allowing me to record this show and speak live on Pal Talk, Awakening Together. So just luckily for me, I have the right earphones this week, so I don't get last week I was talking for 5 minutes before I clicked that someone had written there was no audio. And just got to have a laugh at this life. There's nothing's ever going wrong. It's always for us. It's always, every little thing that happens is for us to see if our mind's going to be shifted out of peace or we're just going to go with it. Just a moment. Okay, so someone's saying, can you hear me, guys? Okay. Oh. Okay, just a moment. Can you hear me? I'll just do this again. Okay. All right, so is someone going to be making an announcement? Would you like to cut in and make an announcement? Someone was writing that they wanted to make an announcement. Okay. All right, so sorry about that. I thought someone had written they wanted to make an announcement prior to me. So let's get into it. First of all, let's invite the Holy Spirit in. Okay, so we, through our work with A Course in Miracles or our spiritual path, we literally want to really dedicate our lives to the right mind. And through the right mind, we will come to the one mind, but we do travel through a relationship with our right mind. It can be called the Holy Spirit or truth or whatever you want to give it, but it's part of our mind that knows the truth that we are unaware of. So when we're in our egoic mind, which everyone here is in, we are unaware we have another mind to think with, and I think that mind tries to come in and alert us, but we have to choose it. There is some choosing of it. So there's some readiness to choose it, readiness to want another way, and then a choosing of it. So it's our right mind. So I've described before, 2 different rooms in a house, and that we need to go from one room to the other. So we need to actually choose to get up out of this room, which is our egoic mind, and we have to actually choose the other way. So we get little hints along the way, we get little glimpses. Jesus tells us here we do get glimpses of truth, but we're very, very asleep. Our mind is asleep. So this is really important that we come to a choosing of it, and also just to know that this path is going to bring up a lot of fear, and that's very normal. And so that's why he says you're going to go gently, because your mind, we've made a different mind. We've forgotten our oneness with God, and we've projected a world so that we can actually think that we're separated from God. So we've tried so hard to hide this truth that we've made a world of separate bodies that we're living in. But there's some part of our mind that knows the truth, and the Course talks about it as a forgotten song. And the reason why it's sort of alluded to that it's forgotten song is that when we get back to the mind of God and we start living in that it feels very much like a song. It feels really beautiful. It feels like you're in a song. So, all I can do here in these talks is to encourage you to be willing and maybe help illuminate some of the Course's teachings through what was illuminated to me. So once I had given my life over to God and said, I do want the peace of God and I will do anything that you want me to. It wasn't easy at times because a lot of fear came up, and so I was at the side of my bed on my knees crying out to God because my mind was going, there was a lot of fear coming up. The ego mind was trying to maintain itself, and it's really interesting to see that it goes from suspicious to vicious. But it does, but that's why we need to strengthen our trust in Jesus or the Holy Spirit or truth or whatever it is that you feel is something that you can trust in. We have to strengthen that trust. And we strengthen that trust by little ways that we rely on that. So we do these little surrenders and we rely on that spirit. And then we start to realise that we are hearing guidance, and we've probably always heard guidance, but we've not always trusted it. And as we strengthen it, this, he calls it hearing, but it's not really hearing, it's this sort of intuitive knowing there's something. It's very hard to put a word to it, but sometimes it can be a hearing of words, sometimes but generally it's just a way of something in our minds that's directing us. And so it's really just this giving over of our will, bit by bit, just very gently. So I'm just here to encourage you to do that as I did it. And the only reason I did it was Jesus did it. He was just like us. He was in this illusion, believing it was real, but also his mind had an idea that this world was not real and couldn't be real, because if God is love, God doesn't make anything that's perishable. So we look at our bodies and we look at what we think we're living in as outside us. And it can take many years to slowly unwind from this idea that this world has a materiality and is true, because we seem to touch things with our hands and see things with our eyes and hear things with our ears. We seem to have lots of other people around us. But it doesn't mean that the essence of those, what we call people, isn't real. The essence of them is you can feel something about them that's true, and that's the only reality. And we'll find that is the love in our mind for them. And as we undo the wrong mind and move more into the right mind through the help and the deepening of the trust in the Holy Spirit, it just works in miraculous ways. And we really start to have these openings to that there is no death, that who I am doesn't die or can't die. So, Holy Spirit, we invite you to be our mind today, invite you to illuminate the Course's teachings, and we dedicate this time to deepening our trust that you will illuminate, that you will be my thoughts, that you will give me another way or show me another way. And when my part is very small. My part is all I need to do is notice when I am upset and bring that upset to the Holy Spirit. Just bring it. Just give it to Him. Say, here, I'm upset. You take this. Help me see this differently. And that's it. That's our part done. Just this willingness. It's not a huge part. And that's all you need to do. Just keep doing that. It's just literally any time you're upset, just accepting the atonement for yourself. That's all I need to do, is notice when I'm upset and accept correction. And sometimes we can be very upset with someone and really want to lash out and say some very hurtful words. So I'd encourage you to really notice those times and really try to dedicate yourself that you will not speak those words. Really just try to pull back and pause and give yourself time to, you don't have to do anything just then. So after your conversation, or when you're with someone that you're getting really triggered with, is to find some time when you can get quiet and just get quiet, and then notice what was upsetting you and just give it to the Holy Spirit. But we have to notice, we have to bring up the hidden sins and hatreds, which are these are just what's left in our mind. And this is the path to awakening, which is the Course in Miracles' path. Because as we have that grievance healed, this upset healed, that's the miracle, by seeing it differently. And the seeing it differently can just literally be that you get an awareness of something different. You'll just get an awareness. You might even see, you might even get an understanding that the person you're upset with might be having their own troubles. They might be having all their own fears and upsets and may not be able to really hold back in the things that they say and how they feel. Because we have to remember that everyone here has the same ego, and everyone has the same ego as I do, and they're going to be feeling just as upset by their thought system as I do. And this is one of the things we can have compassion, or see it as a call for love, because we can see that when we're upset, what were we really, really calling for? We were calling to be understood and loved in that moment. And the reason why we're upset was we were believing that we weren't being cared for and loved. And the other person, seemingly outside us, is feeling that same way. So these are the dynamics of the relationships here, and these are the dynamics of these special relationships that are going to take us home, because they're going to take us home because the Holy Spirit, we're going to use them, the Spirit's going to use them to awaken us. And when I got seriously on this path in a very serious way, I felt like Jesus used everything, the Holy Spirit and Jesus. I felt at different times that different essence or energy or something about each of those particular guides that I used. And I literally was walking around looking at this world, and I had the advisor correcting everything for me, pointing things out. But the only way that could happen was my willingness to say, help me. So it's our What we have to do is a very small part. We just have to have this willingness, and everything will get corrected. And then there just comes a time when the course teachings start to join up and illuminate in your mind. It's like you've put the ingredients in, you've read the text, you've done the lessons, and then slowly you'll get a lot of aha moments where you'll start to see lessons joining up in your mind. They start to make sense. There's some deeper understanding. So you'll start to see, oh, I see how this lesson joins with that lesson. Oh, I see, and there's just this one day you didn't know it and the next day you did. There's a knowingness. And that's just how it works. It's very slowly. The mind is just like the right mind is just like a flower. It just opens. So today I'm going to go through lesson 132. I lose the world from all I thought it was. So it's quite a long lesson. I'm hoping to get through it. Now this lesson is quite one of the most powerful lessons in A Course in Miracles, because it has the teaching, there is no world. But it brings the teaching to an understanding through all the other things that it says around that, and it explains why that is. So I lose the world from all I thought it was. What keeps the world in chains but your beliefs? And what can save the world except yourself? And that's a capital S, self. Belief is powerful indeed. The thoughts you hold are mighty, and illusions are strong in their effects, as is the truth. A madman thinks the world he sees is real and does not doubt it, nor can he be swayed by questioning his thoughts' effects. It is but when their source is raised to question that the hope of freedom comes to him at last. I've talked quite a bit about beliefs, but basically the personal self is made up as a set of beliefs. If you took all those beliefs away, there is no separate self. That self-identity or self-concept that he talks about is actually a bunch of beliefs. So everything that you choose from the ego is from a belief. It's so that's what keeps the world in chains, which means it keeps it in your mind as real. And what can save the world except yourself, capital S, which means your true identity as God created you. And a madman thinks the world he sees is real and does not doubt it. I just want to start off quickly in case I don't get time to mention this here. Is that some Course in Miracles people think that when he talks about there is no world, or the world you see, or when he talks about the world, they think that the world is real, but he's talking about the meanings that we're putting on the world. And the mind does want to withdraw from this idea that there is no world, and that what we're seeing, what we're living in, is a projection or a dream. So they want to backtrack and say, no, this, what the Course or Jesus means by the world is the meaning I'm putting on the things in the world. It's my interpretation that he's talking about. And I went through this as well. I was doubtful. I don't know what he means. Is he talking about the meanings that I'm putting on the things in the world? Or is he actually talking about everything I'm seeing? The bodies, the trees, the people, the houses. Is he talking about that? So there's always this query in our minds. What's he actually talking about? And I came to see that he was talking about everything that we see. He's saying that there is no world, but there seems to be a world. So this is what this lesson's talking about. We lose the world from all I thought it was. But because he goes through the lessons and he talks about, I've given everything the meaning it has for me, we can think that that's what he means by the world. But it's not. But that is part of the loosening up. He's saying the meaning. So as we undo the meaning, it's one step of seeing the meaning we've put on everything, to undo the meaning so that we can see that it is meaningless, and then God puts his meaning on the world. So what's happening is this projection that we're living in, you will awaken to that this is not real, but seems real. And in terms of maybe not even seems real, you'll just have a knowing that there's nothing, that it's being in the world but not of it. It just means that you will come to a deep realization of that nothing real can be threatened, and that you're here, but nothing here can threaten you because you're not a body here in a world. So this is why this seems like this lesson brings in this really strong message. So it's like a Zen bitch slap. He's slapping us over the face in this. He doesn't pull any punches with these lessons, and we can recoil from it when we really hit the truth of what he's pointing to. But our mind wants to make it into something else. So I just want to be clear here that this is what he's saying, and this is what I'm teaching you. I'm not going to distort the meaning. I'm going to be telling you very clearly that this is what he's pointing to, because some teachers can misinterpret this. I don't know any that have, but I have been told. And it even says here that, some will hit it and go and come back to it. Yet is salvation easily achieved, for anyone is free to change his mind, and all his thoughts change with it. Now the source of thought has shifted, for to change your mind means you have changed the source of all ideas you think or ever thought or yet will think. So this lines up with, seek not to change the world, but change your mind about the world. So what we come to see, that the source of our thoughts is what we see outside us. And this is where the miracle happens, because as we change our mind, the world changes. We literally will live in a different world. And so it says, for to change your mind means you have changed the source of all ideas you think. So we're going back to the cause in our mind. And the cause, literally the cause is the ego. This is the ego's outpicturing. And this body is part of the projection. And we will get an inkling of that. We will get an understanding. It will become apparent. We will totally understand this. If we just keep on this path, we will get it. And it is joyful and happy and peaceful. It's not scary, but you might need to go through some fear, because everything you value has to be seen as valueless in its sense of what you can get. But what's replaced is the holiness of it. So it's always replaced with something. If we stopped at just the meaninglessness or the valueless of it, we would get depressed. He says that, but he won't leave us there. He will bring in the truth to our minds, and it will be a different way of seeing. The present now remains the only time. Here in the present is the world set free. That's because that's the eternal now. And that's the only time we can really see, our minds can really get the truth, because if we're in the past in our minds, we're literally unaware of the present. For as you let the past be lifted and release the future from your ancient fears, you find escape and give it to the world. You have enslaved the world with all your fears, your doubts and miseries, your pain and tears, and all your sorrows press upon it and keep it a prisoner to your beliefs. Death strikes it everywhere because you hold the bitter thought of death within your mind. So everything is in our mind. All this misery, depression, fear, we have it in our mind. It goes over and over. We're an effect of our thoughts, our beliefs, and then we see it in the world, because we don't even see that there's a cause in our mind that's causing us to see it. The world is nothing in itself. Your mind must give it meaning. So this is where I'm getting to, that this is one step, that we're giving it a meaning. And what you behold upon it are your wishes, acted out so you can look at them and think them real. Perhaps you think you did not make the world, but came unwillingly to what was made already, hardly waiting for your thoughts to give it meaning. So this is where he's giving us these steps. We think that, sometimes we think the Course and these teachings are that, the world is real, it's just the meaning of giving it, and if I remove the meaning, that's it. But he's saying, no, the whole world, everything here is a total illusion, in terms of that it's something that's in the mind. So it's been projected. It's a total projection. It's a dream from a mind that we're not even aware is dreaming it. And that's why he says, perhaps you think you did not make the world. We think we're not strong enough and powerful to have created a world like this. And we think we came unwilling to what was already made. Sure, we can relate to that. I certainly can. I feel like I was born into a body and came unwillingly to look around and say, well, sometimes you think, well, what the fuck am I doing here? Why would I want to be in a world with cruel parents and cruel people at school, bullies, and, it has its good points. This is the thing. It's the projected world is not all good and just not all bad. It's got some good. It's duality. It's got night and day. Everything has an opposite here. But you see, God has no opposite. So a world of opposites can't have any reality. And that's what he says. Perhaps you think you did not make the world, but came unwillingly to what was made already, hardly waiting for your thoughts to give it meaning. So he's saying, you come into this world and you look around and you think it's real. And then you think, then I'm giving it meaning. So the next step is the meaning I'm putting on everything. Yet in truth, you found exactly what you looked for when you came. So this goes back to that idea that my mind is reincarnating into this dream, and I'm just choosing it from the guilt that's really hidden in the unconscious mind. I'm choosing it over and over. There is no world apart from what you wish, and herein lies your ultimate release. Change but your mind on what you want to see, and all the world must change accordingly. So this is such an important lesson here, that as we change the source, as we change from the ego to the Holy Spirit, the world will change accordingly. And I can guarantee you it has for me. This world is a completely different world, and all I did was change my mind. All my family members have changed. Everything about this world has changed. Things come very easily. It's very interesting when you're aware that that this world is a projected world. It is a dream, and you're in it. And there's nothing about denying anything. It's just a understanding or an illumination. And I still get to spend time with friends and family, but it's like maybe being in like a movie script or a dream where you just say, hey, these guys are in the dream with me. But it's also comes along with this whole way of seeing that there's only the Christ here. And I think as the time goes on for me, I've forgotten how I've used to think. It's been 3.5 years now since the awakening, and I literally, my mind's deepening and deepening into this truth. And there's just nothing that could make me feel threatened, because there's such a deep knowing that I'm not a body in a world. It's literally just God. It's just literally everything is God, because God is in my mind. So as he's telling us that this world will change, and it will, because I don't have any ideas about lack anymore. And I've only got, it's funny because to try to describe it is really difficult, because the mind of God operates so differently. And I live a lot in deja vu, because it's like I see things going to happen. I know they're going to happen, and they happen. And there's even when I've just moved house about a month ago, within the first, well, I've only been here 4 weeks, but especially in the first 2 or 3 weeks, mainly probably not the last week or so, but it was a knowing that I'd already been through this. It's a knowing that this whole life has already happened. And there's just this, I don't know how to describe it, but there's like, if you've ever had deja vu, imagine living in that most of the day. Everything you do is, oh, this has happened before. And initially it surprised me, and we'd like, oh, look at that, oh my goodness, Now it's so happening so often that it's not something that excites me anymore. So I'm like, okay. It just happens all the time. Some days it's all day, other days, but sometimes I know what's going to happen. I get like a sense of about a 20-second lag. I know exactly what someone's going to say, what they're going to say, how they're going to say it, especially maybe around when people come in, where they're going to sit in a room, or say on the Zoom groups that I run, who people are going to ask to speak. Just so many things. It's like a knowing. A lot of the time I just know. And a lot of the time I don't know too. I'm not saying I know all the time, but generally it's like my mind, especially when it's very, very clear, and it's clear all the time, but there's like this, I think Cate talks about, it's like turning up the volume, and and sometimes this volume is turned right up, and it's like this switching on, and it's like everything just is like, it's like living in something that is just like there's a knowing of that it's all happening at once, and it's already happened, but there's a joy of living through it at the same time, because there's this essence of knowing nothing real can be threatened. And just for me personally, I've given my whole life to God, so this life's not about getting anything. I've seen you can't get anything here. There's a true realisation that there's nothing to get. And then there's just a constant commitment of a deepening into the mind of God, because for me it goes deeper. It's just having these teachings illuminated on a deeper level, and that's happening. That's continuing to happen. So ideas leave not their source. The central theme is often stated in the text and must be borne in mind if you would understand the lesson for today. It is not pride which tells you that you made the world you see. He's not saying that you put the meaning on it. He said you made it. We have to take, he says, we are the dreamer of the dream. And part of this teaching is so we take responsibility for it, not to be guilty for it, but just so that we're aware that as an ego we made this world and we think we come unwilling to it. But it's really, teaching has to be understood in a correct way, that it's just for our understanding of how everything works. It's not for the ego to use against us. Jesus is just guiding us here and saying, you know, please understand this, because this teaching reverses everything that we've ever thought was true. And that's, of course, our mind's going to arc up against that. Our mind as in the ego mind. So it is not pride which tells you that you made the world you see and that it changes as you change your mind. But it is pride that argues you have come into a world quite separate from yourself, impervious to what you think and quite apart from what you chance to think it. So if this world was over long ago, we're mentally reviewing what's gone by. So say you've had, as a child, you've had child abuse, maybe you've been raped, whatever. It's what we come to see was that most of the stuff that was done was with bodies. And this is the beautiful part of the Course, is that he unwinds us from identifying as a body. And so all these past upsets to do with bodies doing things to other bodies, they get unwound in our mind. The importance of the body starts to really loosen in the mind. And this all works together with this teaching that he's trying to unwind us from the idea that, you see, if we maintain in our minds that bodies are real and are doing things to each other and can have permanent effects, we're keeping the world real. So he's really trying to bring in this truth here to us in a very clear way, and it is a really radical teaching. It's probably the most radical teaching you could ever hear in this lesson. This is why I'm attempting to sort of flesh it out and help if you're listening to this, just help you get a deeper understanding of this. There is no world. This is the central thought the Course attempts to teach. Not everyone is ready to accept it, and each one must go as far as he can let himself be led along the road to truth. He will return and go still farther, or perhaps step back a while and then return again. So he's saying that, so let's just back up a little bit and say, so that just prior to that, the prior paragraph is telling us that the world we see is coming from our mind. We have to take responsibility or we won't accept the atonement for it. We'll think we're at effect of the world. So he's reversing it and saying, look into your mind, have the Holy Spirit correct your mind, and then you'll see a much more beautiful world because it's coming from your mind. But then he's also saying there is no world. And what he's saying is that the actual world doesn't exist. It exists within your mind. So there's no actual materiality to this world. It's in your mind. So when you're in a dream, the dream seems very real. This is what he's trying to get us to. And he's just saying that this is the central thought. It's the whole thought. It's the central idea of the Course, said over and over and over, pointed to many different ways. But this particular lesson is very hard hitting. So let's go there. And he's saying we'll touch on that, and then we'll go away, and we'll come back, and we'll return, and we'll step back a little while, and maybe we'll just say, look, that doesn't make sense. I don't think he really means that. I think he means something else, and we might go off, and then we'll come back to it. But he's telling us, please keep coming back. But healing is the gift of those who are prepared to learn there is no world and can accept the lesson now. So he's telling us that if we can really go into this lesson and be prepared to learn it, we only have to be prepared to learn it, we can accept the lesson. Their readiness will bring the lesson to them in some form that they can understand and recognise. So there'll be something in your path, in your particular curriculum, that will bring the lesson to you. It will show this to you. Some see it suddenly on point of death. And I would say here that when he says that, it may be like a near-death experience where that the mind does see that the world is an illusion, and then they come back to teach it. And it says here, and rise to teach it. Others find it in an experience that is not of this world. So some people have these beautiful mystical experiences. And it says, which shows them that the world does not exist, because what they behold must be truth. And yet it clearly contradicts the world. So what happens is, some minds have that, and then they go on to teach it as well. And some will find it in this course and in the exercises that we do today. And that was me. I found it in the course. Today's idea is true because the world does not exist. And if it is indeed your own imaginings, then you can lose it from all things you ever thought it was, merely by changing all the thoughts that gave it these appearances. So the appearances of what's outside of us is coming from our beliefs and thoughts. So if we have a belief that the world is cruel, if we have a belief that people are mean and nasty and selfish, we have to look at all these beliefs that we think about the world. We have to really look and say, oh, wow, I think, I came to had to look at all my beliefs, and just one by one, that was all. I just gently went through one by one. I was in a hurry. So one of them was that dads in the world should act like a dad. Like I had all these rules about how dads should act. I had to unwind all that and see that how could anyone in this world act lovingly when they're under the control or they're under the domination of the ego thought system. That's true. No one here can be loving because unless they're awakened or liberated, they absolutely cannot be truly loving. They can have moments of love, but unless they've undone their ego, they can't be. So why would I expect them to? So why would I get angry with another mind that wasn't totally loving? I have to have compassion. They've got the same ego as me, and that's a really beautiful, lovely lesson for us to really think about. The sick are healed as you let go of all thoughts of sickness, and the dead arise when you let thoughts of life replace all thoughts you ever held of death. So we start to see that in my mind, I can't see sickness. It's just impossible, because it's impossible for the Holy Son of God to be sick. I can see that other minds believe that they're sick and they talk about it, but it's not something. And a few people have felt quite healed through talking with me, sitting with me, texting with me, because and maybe the sick are healed. Maybe I'm going to get better at that in years to come, I don't know, but it's just impossible, because the Holy Son of God is all there is, and that doesn't include sickness. So my mind has got no idea that anyone here could be sick. The dead arise when you let thoughts of life replace all thoughts you ever held of death. Well, death is of this world is of bodies dying, and if we're not bodies, then nothing can die. And we're spirit. We're actually mind. There's whatever you, when you feel into this love of God, that's what you are. You're the love. A lesson earlier repeated once must now be stressed again, for it contains the firm foundation for today's idea. You are as God created you. There is no place where you can suffer, no time that can bring change to your eternal state. What can a world of time and place, how can a world of time and place exist if you remain as God created you? So nothing real can be threatened, nothing unreal exists. So you, as spirit, can't be threatened. And it's beautiful. So the reason why he does so many lessons that you are as God has created you, because he's really trying to pound this home, that you are not a body. God did not create you as a body. You weren't born and, oh, God gave me this life and God created me to do all these things in this world. That's old-fashioned, egoic thinking. And the way home is to see that I am not a body. I am as God created me. What is the lesson for today except another way of saying that to know yourself is the salvation of the world? This self with the capital S is another word for God's mind, who you truly are, the spirit as God created you. So he's pointing to it. You are as God created you, and that is your capital S self. And is the salvation of the world? Well, it saves you from the world. It's the salvation of the world, because not only is your mind going to awaken, enlighten, become enlightened, it's that all the ego fear drops away from your mind, all the beliefs drop away, and you're just a spacious awareness of love. Calls the mind of God abstract. So it's got an abstraction, but it knows, it gets guidance, it gets guided what to say and do, and you'll be able to function normally within it. You're just you have an awareness that this world has cannot affect you, so you can't be threatened because who you are is not a body. To free the world from every kind of pain is to change your mind about yourself. So we're changing our mind about ourselves, that we're not a body, that we're mind or spirit, and that's where that change has to happen. And that brings in, I am as God created me. There is no world apart from your ideas, because ideas leave not their source, and you maintain the world within your mind in thought. So my thoughts and my beliefs are creating this world. There is no world apart from your ideas, because ideas leave not their source. So if we're in the ego mind, that's the source, and the ideas don't leave the mind. So we're just going to be constantly when we're in our ego mind, we're in a constant loop of these lives. We're born, we're seeming there to be in the world, we die, when this sort of reincarnated over and over and over again into a world of pain and suffering and guilt and blame and hatred and all the opposites. But those things can't be true. There's no reality to those, because if God is perfect love and all-encompassing, those things can't have any reality. So I really encourage you to look around and see, would this world be created or made? As I say created, because God only creates. Do you think that he would create things that perish and die? Do you think that he would have anything to do with anything that is to do with suffering at all? No, God wouldn't. He would not. But you need to test this for yourself. It's a little bit like the Buddha. It's like, look at it yourself. Have a look at it. Really look. Spend time contemplating these teachings. If you do think this world is real and that you're an effect of it, then you must think God's insane. And he says this all the time, then, how can God, an all-loving God, have anything to do with this? Yet, if you are as God created you, you cannot think apart from him, nor make what does not share his timelessness and love. Are these inherent in the world you see? So he's asking us to keep looking, and this is what I did with the Holy Spirit. Does it create like him? Does this world obviously create love? There's this ego mind here that thinks it's in a body, that's all selfish and look at me and identifies as a body and you're over there, and this whole ego mind is about getting, and I want more and I'm scared you're going to have more. It's just got this selfish thing. It doesn't want to give. It doesn't give openly to others. It's all about storing up money and goods and trying to get love and hold on to it and secure it. Its whole thought system, and we really have to look at the ego's thought system to see that it is madness, because otherwise we're still in it and think it holds something for us. And he's saying, are these inherent in the world you see? So is there timelessness and love? Does it create like him? Unless it does, it is not real and cannot be at all. So we really have to see that he's asking us that to really look at this world, take off the blinders and really look. And I encourage you to look, look with the Holy Spirit. Just say, Holy Spirit, be with me and look with me. If you are real, the world you see is false. He's saying you as real as a spirit. The world you see is false. For God's creation is unlike the world in every way. And as it was his thought by which you were created, so his thoughts, which is the love, so the beautiful, holy love, that's what you are. And his thought, which is these holy thoughts by which you were created. So it is your thoughts which made it. He's saying your thoughts, as in the ego mind thoughts, made it. And therefore you must set it free, that you may know the thoughts you share with God. So while we're in this, that's why we have to unwind we have to see the meaning we've put on the world. We have to really, this is a big unwinding from the world, seeing that we have to really look, have I ever gotten happiness from this world? All this seeking, all this trying to get everything. Have I ever got happy? Has it ever given me this eternal happiness? We have to look at that, because the answer has to come to you before you can really see clearly that it's a no. And if that's the case, then we have to dive into these teachings. Release the world. Your real creations wait for this release to give you fatherhood, not of illusions, but as God in truth. And your real creations are the holy love. That's all. Your creations got nothing to do with materiality. God's creations is the holy love of our mind, extending out always. God shares his fatherhood with you, who are his son, for he makes no distinctions in what is himself and what is still himself. What he creates is not apart from him, and nowhere does the Father end and the Son begin as something separate from him. There is no world because it is a thought apart from God and made to separate the Father and the Son and break away a part of God himself and thus destroy his wholeness. Can a world which comes from this idea be real? Can it be anywhere? Deny illusions, but accept the truth. Deny you are a shadow briefly laid upon a dying world. Release your mind and you will look upon a world released. Today our purpose is to free the world from all the idle thoughts we ever held about it and about all living things we see upon it. They cannot be there no more than we, for we are in the home our Father set for us along with them. And we, who are as he created us, would lose the world this day from every one of our illusions that we may be free. Begin the 15-minute period in which we practice twice today. I, who remain as God created me, would lose the world from all I thought it was, for I am real because the world is not, and I would know my own reality. So there can be this thought that, you know, you're going, what about your beautiful family and things like that? But what happens is the love that you feel for your family, the love gets risen up in your mind, and it becomes the love for everyone. It becomes equal. So just wanted to, because I'm just going through some things that I had fears about, well, what would I not love my family if I'm going to see that this world's not real? Would I turn away from things? But no, what happened was the love, the holy love, or this open-hearted love that you have for everyone in the world rises up. You see that it's only love, so you become open-heartedly loving. The love of God, or the love that you feel as you unite, where you lose the meaning and the value of the things that you can get. The ego says you can get things from outside you. You start to see that there is no world, because it's impossible for this world to have any reality, because it's a world of duality. And we have to look at this teaching. It's such an important teaching to come to from time to time. He's saying this is the theme of the world. The theme of the course. So I'm going to leave there. There's a little bit that I might be able to really just quickly read this. Then merely rest, alert with no strain, and let your mind in quietness be changed, so the world is freed along with you. You need not realise that healing comes to many brothers far across the world, as well as to the ones you see nearby, as you send out these thoughts to bless the world. But you will sense your own release, although you may not fully understand as yet that you could never be released alone. That's because minds are joined. Throughout the day, increase the freedom sent through your ideas to all the world, and say, whenever you are tempted to deny the power of your simple change of mind, I lose the world from all I thought it was and choose my own reality instead. So that's the end of that lesson, and I'm glad I got to it right on the dot. So thank you and blessings, and I love you and I bless you and I honour you, and I hope you've enjoyed this session with me. So I love you and see you soon. Just